biggest concern had been the issue of criminalization. That was our biggest concern. And if this is the spirit with which you appreciate that issue, one, that the prisons are congested, and some of you have been in the Interior Ministry and others before. You've been to the prisons, you've seen what is happening there. We don't need to add to an already big problem which the nation is facing. So other ways should be looked at. Two, we're looking at constitutionalism and the role of Parliament. We have been at pains as a constitutional body to appear before you, not in favor of or against the bill, but to speak to the constitutional issues that are being engaged. And so we want it to be clear from the beginning. We're not here for or against. We're here speaking to constitutional issues, which are matters which are very critical for the advancement of our country. And I'll start first with I have my former classmate who is disturbing me at the back. He's been on my neck, chair. Anyway.
You're protected, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Right. Right, yes, and the Honorable Esla.
Three classmates in the room.
Actually, I was beginning
the person presenting, Honorable Osla and Lawyer Fuamanin.
Exactly.
They were in the same class.
I was getting worried when some judge said, go and read your law. I said, does it include me? Because I'm also sitting here. Yes, he did so, thankfully. So we look at the principles undergirding the Constitution. That is my first take. Fundamental human rights and the preservation of fundamental human rights is very critical. And so whilst we look at the provisos only come in or kick in when the substantive provision is first addressed. And so when I look at, I won't talk about the ones that you have already spoken about, but expression of interest, association, movement, among others, are fundamental human rights which are guaranteed under the Constitution. For me to hear within the bill that persons who advocate either through whatever means they do, or even through the media, may run foul of the law and may end up being criminalized or facing criminal sanctions, I felt Parliament may need to be careful, and this committee needs to draw attention, because you could go into what I will term parliamentary overreach. Why would you want to protect in the public interest the same public and at the same time put in provisions that will criminalize advocacy for? Allow Lgbtqia persons who have a right to at least even push back against the laws that are being made against them. You don't even want them to have the opportunity to speak in defense. That is the implication of the bill. And I think that freedom of expression and of the media is an area we should be very careful of, because those are areas this committee may want to critically assess. Otherwise, you may go into some overreach. And when I say overreach, you appreciate what I'm talking of. In the sense that, of course, if you do that, there will be a likelihood that the whole law that will come out of it may be subject to certain challenges at the Supreme Court, which would be unnecessary if we did the needful. Now, freedom of association is another fundamental freedom, which I see in the bill an attempt at preventing Ghanaians from associating in regard to the activities. Yes, in regard to the activities. The Commission takes the view that Section 104 has already criminalized the act. That is the position. So why then add provisions that will now bring other persons or other people when they are to do associate in one way or the other, like what happened in Ho, into it? Why? I think
Something happened in Ho.
Section 104 is sufficient, and if it is not sufficient, we can make an amendment of that provision sufficient to deter people along those lines, and not to open up so that any one of us, like me as a member of the commission or commissioner of Chraj, with a mandate to promote human rights, if I decide to speak on behalf of the minority and the vulnerable, then I'm opening myself to a possible criminal prosecution. Why would that be? We need to be very careful as we consider the bill. Again, the promoters went a distance at trying to let you as a committee appreciate that there's nothing wrong at the international level regarding the commitments of Ghana, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the other international instruments, including the African Charter. I beg to differ, because there are general comments of the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights Committee, which have actually defined sexual orientation as a human right. And by the way, Ghana has ratified it without reservation. So what we can do as a nation should be, we have all the power to go back and make some reservations if we want. But to say that it is not, that is not a human right, I'll say once the Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, Ghana is a member of the General Assembly of the UN and is subject to the jurisdiction of that committee, and the general comments of that committee have included sexual orientation as a human right, we need to be very careful, because it only takes the Supreme Court to import that into our law, and it is done. So let's be very careful. I think since I'm not here to speak for or against, I'm only drawing attention that if there are reservations that we have to make, we do that, so that we know where we're treading. Again, on the African Charter, of course, promoters have actually gone to pick certain provisions, but they forgot certain provisions. If you look at Article 28 of the African Charter, the pivot of that provision is on tolerance, and tolerating each other as Africans and as neighbors is very important. If citizens are erring on the side of